Tired of screwing up, tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.
Eminent Waste of Time, episode 24. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And we are actually in race season now.
Yes, we are.
I've finally gotten to do my 10-second call that's been put away all winter.
You did them many, many times. I heard them.
No, actually, it was a really good weekend. I mean, for March, the weather was really fantastic for at least half of it.
Well,
Sunday wasn't great, but it was March.
So we'll get to that momentarily. We can't just jump right in, can we?
Yes, we can.
We can?
Okay. What do you want to banter about?
I don't know. What do you got?
Nothing. Race stuff.
Okay, we'll start with race stuff. Whatever. So I was only able to attend on Saturday. Just my schedule's a little busier this year, and I don't know that it'll be that way for every race, but definitely on Saturdays I can normally make it, and then Sundays are just going to be busy. So it is what it is. So Saturday, we'll start with that for MWXC because it was a season opener. It was pretty nice.
It was beautiful. I mean, anytime you get Indiana and 50 degrees and sunny in the same sentence in March, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Sunny. The wind was a bit bitey if you were out in the open, but
yeah. Still, though, I mean, really, for an early season race, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, I was really surprised at the turnout. I mean, last year at this race, so overall, over the entire weekend, there was 117 more racers than there were last year at the exact same race.
That tells you the season, or the series is growing.
Yeah. Now, the weather was better, but most racers don't seem to care. I mean, most of them are, well, it's going to be kind of cold, I'm not going. They're anxious to race. They don't care. So,
Yeah.
like you said, it's a good indication that the series is doing better, it's growing, and really overall, just it was neat to be back in that setting where people are just excited to be there. They're ready to go, and all that kind of nervous tension finally has an outlet. And
Well, generally racers make the decision if they're going to race, we'll say a few days before. A lot of them it's a week or so before, but if their schedule allows, they know that about a week before. If their machine is going to make it, is usually within a day or two before. If your parts are going to show up. So, I mean, yeah, generally they don't just, I don't feel like going. That's not normally a racer's mentality.
no, is the machine ready? Do I have time to be there? Is everything, like, if everything lines up, the weather is all kind of a secondary concern.
I'm going anyway.
Yeah.
And we haven't had, it's not like it's the end of the season where people are beat down and, they're just, I don't want to go race in the mud again or whatever, because the mud will just take it out of you, like mentally.
Yeah.
And physically, especially on like a dirt bike and a quad. But the side-by-sides, it's more mental, but even they get the mental on the dirt bikes and the quads. When you're racing in the mud and you've done it like several times in a row, mentally, it is just defeating.
Yeah.
I mean, for whatever reason.
And the track was perfect.
It was not mud this weekend.
The dirt, I mean, yeah, like you said, mentally it can be defeating in those kind of circumstances, but this track was just about perfect. Yeah. I mean, the dirt it wasn't dusty, but there wasn't a lot of slop out there. It was nice and tacky. Now, it was rough. That's the thing I heard from a lot of racers there, but
now
I had to laugh when I saw some of the comments on there, people complaining about it, and then one guy just posted something to the effect of, "It's XC racing, boys. If you can't hack it, there's always
go-kart tracks.
Yeah,
everywhere.
go-kart. They still sell go-karts. Like, exactly."
So I was out. Doug doesn't get to go out on the track. I wasn't on my quad this time. I wasn't doing track sweeping. I was putting together stuff for a video and helping Doug at the start line and stuff like that. Just more things that need done. So while we're on the subject of the video, I'll plug it. Go check out our Facebook page, and you can see the video from this weekend. It was only Saturday, like I said, because that was the only time I could be there. But I was out on the track. It was not rough. And you guys look at the video yourselves and judge for yourselves. It was not rough at all. I mean, there was spots where there was some exposed roots. But, man, you want to see a rough track. The GNCC Wild Boar was this weekend, the one down in Florida.
Yeah.
That track is an absolute nightmare. I wouldn't race it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get going at any real speed on a side-by-side. And if you guys, they're just the guys that race side-by-sides are just starting to post the videos because it was just a couple days ago. But, man, you watch those guys. I was watching one today, and he's got the GoPro strapped to his helmet, and all you see is like you can't see out because all of a sudden it's dashboard, roof, dashboard, roof.
Yeah.
Because he's just getting whipped back and forth on that thing. And he had good suspension. He's a fast racer, the guy I was watching, but that's a rough track. The track this weekend, it was sandy, so you get some ruts and some roots tore in there and everything else. But man, overall it was a great track. I think people are just complaining because they want to complain. And
honestly, early in the season too, your suspension doesn't react the same when it's cold. I mean, that same track when it was 90 degrees out and everything's a little bit looser, you probably don't hear about it as much, but your suspension's stiff. Your tires are cold and hard. And and honestly, you're cold. You're tired of being beat up. I think it all just plays into it. I think you race that same track and it's 80 degrees instead of 30 degrees. It's a totally different story.
Yeah. So one of the comments on the Facebook group for that race series was, people were complaining about it. And then one guy posted in there, have you seen the kid with one arm? Like, there literally is a kid who's got one arm. I mean, it's cut off about like mid-forearm or something like that. And I don't know if it's from birth or not. I don't remember. I think it's Blair is his first name. That kid didn't complain one bit.
No.
Never has. He's man.
And neither did Jill Zink.
Yeah. So she's like how old is she?
I want to say she's like 67 or 68. And don't hate me, Jill, if you're only like 64. But
yeah.
I mean, she didn't complain one bit.
Yeah, she ended up, I think, second in her class. I was talking to her, if I remember right. And she didn't complain. It's just these people that want to nitpick. I mean,
there's always a few. Don't
get me wrong. It's rougher than like the track you have in your backyard where you're the only quad or dirt bike that's running it. I mean, you're talking about how many, I don't know what the total attendance was, but hundreds upon hundreds.
I'm trying to think of the numbers. Last year was, if I'm remembering right, 648, and this year was 760 something, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, so you got 700 machines running on this.
Yeah.
It's going to get rutted. It's just what it is.
Like you said, especially sandy too. And with quads going first, they whooped it out. In fact, I warned them at the line every time, carry speed up those hills.
Right.
You do not want to be in the middle of the hill and then find out you don't have enough momentum and trying to, walk it up there, and you're just going to whoop it out even more.
Yeah.
So I warned everybody, carry speed up those hills. Do not mess around because they're going to go away.
Yeah. But man, overall, I thought it was a great track. And like I said, go check out the video and you guys will see, because I kind of walked most of the track to do the video, and it's not bad at all.
You, like you said, you weren't there Sunday. You missed how many bikes there were. It was nuts. On the AM race, row 1, the AM race, there was 43 bikes on row 1.
Wow. That's a lot.
In fact, if I'm remembering right, the AM race, there's always more in the AM race than there is in PM, because there's fewer strong riders, and that's the
there's
way
more
it works
mediocre.
out. Yeah, exactly. But there were 238 riders in the adult AM race alone.
Wow.
That track was bumping, dude. There was no gap. Like a lot of times in the quads, because there were fewer numbers, you'd have a gap where, you'd
have a 30-second or 60-second gap sometimes, depending if they're spread or not.
So I had and then there'd be one quad that'd go cruising by, and then you'd have another gap. So I had plenty of time to announce. During the bikes, it was just nonstop. There was no gap anywhere.
Yeah. That's impressive, man, especially for season opener. Now, some will fall off. It always happens throughout the year. People, figure out racing isn't for me, and they just stop coming. But, man, that's impressive. That's a lot of bikes.
Yeah. No, it was great. Honestly, it was just a really, really solid weekend, and it was a ton of fun. And it was neat to see everybody out there just competing. It was neat to see people that were in new classes. They had to move up because they'd done so well in their old ones, and kind of interesting to see where they fell in the pack and how they were doing.
How did some of them do?
Really, a couple, like Clay Harden had to move up. He's actually racing now in the, I want to say he's in C Open, if I'm remembering right.
Okay.
No, was that? No, he's in B.
Okay.
Because he's racing same Casey Martin. He's racing in the same class as he is now.
Yep.
And so he ended up pulling out 2 laps early. His throttle broke, and so he didn't even get to finish. It just, mechanical failure or something happened along those. But Casey Martin, so he was in row 1 in the adult AM, which is your C row.
Yeah.
And then when he moved to PM, it moved him up to B, and he finished, I want to say he finished 8th. Now, he was running 4th for a long time, for probably 2/3 of the race. But he ended up, he clipped a tree or something happened, and it basically broke the back brake lever.
Oh.
So he had no rear brakes, and you can't run as hard, you can't run as fast if you don't have rear brakes.
Yeah.
You just can't. So he ended up falling back to 8th. But barring that mechanical failure, he probably would have held on to 4th, maybe even made a lucky pass and got up into podium contention in that row. So, I mean, now last year, he won the C class, I think 5 or 6 times, which is why he had to move up.
Right.
And that was his first year racing.
Yeah.
And now he's moved up into B.
That's impressive.
And he, like I said, barring a mechanical failure, he was staring down 4th on his first race.
That's pretty good.
So
that's really good.
Dude's a solid rider.
Yeah. So one thing that I did hear from a lot of the guys that were racing that I think maybe attributes more to people saying that the track is rough is that so many of them were tired. Like
they were
just beat down tired. It wasn't the weather that did it. The track wasn't amazingly bad, and I'm going to make that statement and kind of stand by it. I really think a lot of it is they're not conditioned.
Prime example, this guy, I can't remember what he might have been, and he wasn't a vet because he was older than that. He's probably in senior B, so 40 plus.
Yeah.
He comes cruising in. I want to say he was the last bike through at the end of the race. He ran straight into the sign. I mean, the finish line sign.
Yeah.
So visualize this for you viewers at home. The finish line sign is basically it's basically a steel tube frame, and then there's a steel insert where they put vinyl on for the sponsors. And so it's only, I don't know, 2 foot wide on each side.
Yeah.
And then 2 feet wide across the top. So it's basically a big 2 foot wide upside down U. And then you go through the middle of it. And the middle of it's, I don't know, 10 foot at least.
Oh, at least. I mean, we drive side by sides through there at decent pace last year.
So it's at least 10 foot wide.
Yeah.
He comes through, and we're watching him, and I kind of caught out of the corner of my eye, and then when I heard the thump, I turned over. He just went straight into one of the posts. And we go over there, and he's kind of dazed, and we're asking him if he's okay, and he's like, yeah. He goes, I was like, what happened? He goes, oh, the front end just washed out on me. A bunch of people watched it, and I caught kind of, out of the periphery. He didn't even try and turn. He just hit it. And honestly, I think he did, like, hypothermia had started to set in because it was only about 38 degrees. There was no sun on Sunday.
Yeah, it was colder for sure.
And so when you get cold and you start to get tired, you're just kind of out of it. I think he was literally on the bike and just completely dazed, just like you said.
Autopilot.
He was tired, and he just went thumped right into the sign.
Yeah.
I hate to laugh, but it was pretty funny.
So I have a friend who... he is a strength and conditioning coach. Like, that's his job on a daily basis.
Sure.
And I have told him, and I talked to Doug about it, I think this weekend, but I've talked to him about it many times. And I told him, I said, you need to talk to your boss and get them to go out there and either be a sponsor or set up a booth in the vendor row. Because, man, just being in shape out there, that would save you so much time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you saw the lap times more so than me, but they would start out with, we'll say, a 18-minute lap time. Mm-hmm. And then they'd fall off and they'd be 19 minutes, 19 and a half minutes, and then they'd kind of settle in there just shy of 20 minutes or so, it seemed. But at that point, they're losing about a minute or a minute and a half per lap time.
And that was really the difference between the riders that were conditioned, that were the faster riders in general, and the ones that weren't. The consistency of lap times.
Right. So my point was to my friend who has the strength and conditioning thing that he does, if you could get these guys to see that and you could, sell it to them, I'm not saying it's a bad sell, I'm saying it's a good thing. If you could show them that instead of losing a minute and a half or a minute on each lap after your second lap, that you could maintain your lap speeds from the first two, that puts you like probably first place unless you are completely outclassed in the class you're in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. In fact, a lot of people are going to roast me who don't understand the mechanics of racing and cross country, but really conditioning and your riding skill are the top two factors.
Oh, yeah.
In it, followed up by really good suspension.
Yep.
Horsepower, really, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because if, you're riding a 250 quad and somebody's out there in a 450, they're probably going to beat you, all the other things being equal.
Right.
But short of that, I mean, if you're in a relatively competitive quad, you can go out there with a box stock 450 in terms of motor with a really good suspension, and you're going to come out ahead of the guy that put a ton of money into the motor and nothing into the suspension.
Yep. Well, I mean, case in point, one of the guys, it was in the AM quads, I'm pretty sure, he was on a even stock suspension Yamaha, and I think he was second?
Yeah,
third?
he was second.
Second? Okay. He got second. He was in good shape, and he knew how to ride.
Yep.
I mean, but he was on a bone stock Yamaha 450.
And that's what I tell people when they're interested in racing. Well, what mods do I need to do? I'm like, really just survivability stuff. I mean, bead locks are usually a good idea, and mud plugs so you're not carrying around 40 pounds of mud in the wheel on a quad. But other than that, be a good rider.
Yeah.
Most people cannot ride the machine to its full ability. So buying a bunch of aftermarket stuff isn't really netting you that much.
Well,
you need to up your game, and then you can go on from there.
I think people are trying to overcome their inability to ride by upgrading.
Oh, yeah, it's a common reaction. Maybe if I throw some money at it. But, I mean, there's some decent mods you can do for cheap, too. A real popular one is to take the throttle return spring out of a kid's quad, like a TRX, like the old 250EX or the 250X, and use that on the 450, because it does get tiring after 90 minutes of jamming on a stiff throttle spring. But that's a cheap mod.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to do, okay, I've got this really hot motor. I spent $8,000 in the motor in this quad. I can only run 110 octane, and it might be totally rip snorting, but if you can't ride and your suspension stinks, that's best of luck.
So there was a guy, and he posted something on the series Facebook page and was kind of whining that he didn't have a steering stabilizer. Now, he posted 4 pictures. I don't know if you saw this.
Trying to think if I did. I don't know.
He posted 4 pictures, and the back end is just kicking back and forth and bouncing. He's blaming that he didn't have a steering stabilizer for that.
Yeah, it's not going to do you much.
No, I posted it, and then I deleted my own post because I was like, nope, I'm not going to start that fight. Let him figure it out.
No.
But my post was, quicken up your compression on it and let the thing pack up there a little bit. I mean, don't let it pack to where it's not recovering, but let the rear end soak the suspension up, because in the pictures, his front wheels never varied from the angle they were at, because it was a turn and they were like 4 pictures, like right one after the other.
Yeah.
And it's like a steering stabilizer wouldn't have done you a bit of good there.
Well, and that's where having advice from somebody like, Rocket Ron that does suspension for a living and can look at what's happening, that's where that's completely invaluable.
Yep. No, I fully agree.
Now, do we do an interesting audio break? Because I think we lost video. No, the water bottle's in the way.
For those of you, I saw that. So I'm going to tell you guys what happened. I was waiting.
It's happened before.
I was waiting. So Doug had set his water bottle down, and for those of you watching us on YouTube, it was right there. So when he did that,
the clock disappeared.
He blocked the counter, which is right there on the laptop. So he goes, so do we need to restart video? I just reach over and grab his water bottle and slide it over, and look, the clock magically
And we're
appears
good. Yeah,
for
we'll-
him.
We'll keep it tucked there. I'll drown my laptop if it comes to it. But well, we've had it happen numerous times.
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
little gun shy now.
Yep. No, I completely get that.
It's an equipment problem. We need to spend more money.
No, just don't set your water bottle in front of it. We're good. So, okay. The other thing we have to talk about, I put it on the list.
Yes, you did. That means you're going to talk about it.
You're going to talk about it too, but I'll bring it up for sure. So there's this one girl who tends to think she's more of a boy, and she rides quads. And
Okay, I'm going to preface this. She's not transgender or anything.
No,
She's
no.
just kind of a tomboy. Keeps her hair short. She rides a mean quad.
yep, no, and she's a good rider. I'm not saying she's not, but she's a decent rider. I mean, she's not out there just blowing everybody away, but she's a decent rider. So anyway, she's out there shirtless the whole race.
Yes, she was.
Now, before y'all jump to too many conclusions, she had a sports bra on and a vest, like a riding
Chest
vest.
protector, yeah.
And that was it. It was not a particularly warm weekend. There wasn't one guy wearing no shirt out there.
Oh, no, they were all bundled up.
Yeah. I think she's taken the butch macho-ness a bit far.
Yeah, I don't know what to add to that because I just remember standing there at the finish line trailer, watching her go by, going, "Huh, okay."
Yeah. One of the guys who was doing some of the scoring there, he's standing there, and he goes, did you see that dude just go by without a shirt on? And the lady who runs the scoring there in the trailer, she looks down and she goes, that wasn't a dude, that was, and she says the girl's name, and we all start laughing. And then the guy goes, well, you couldn't see anything, so it's all right, I guess.
Not that I was looking. All of a sudden, he starts like backpedaling, which was pretty funny too. But
Yeah.
the only thing that really went awry this weekend was I'd had that new setup with my tablet, my phone, where I could control the tablet from the phone. Because at the start line, there's kind of a progression of riders meeting, and you need to do introductions, and then you have. And there's different music for that kind of stuff. And then there's the national anthem, unless somebody's willing to sing it live, and you have to have a recording of that. And then you have to, after the national anthem, you stop and you get everybody hyped up. You know, are you ready to race? Da da da. Da. And then typically what we do at MWXC is we play Kickstart My Heart, the version by Motley Crue, because, you know, Kickstarters and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And it's an upbeat song, and it gets
Everybody's blood pumping and whatnot.
yeah. So it's kind of hard to control that when you have a PA system set up the way we do, where you've got an FM transmitter and it's transmitting to everybody. So it's not just my speakers on the start line. It's people back in the race pit. They're getting the race start and the call, and it all works out great. But I have to have kind of a central location to run everything from. So I tried something new this year, and it all worked out pretty well. You saved my butt on one instance during one of the races. I actually got through the national anthem every time, but the kind of letdown was having to release the race. It was adult PM on the bikes.
Oh, okay.
And everything went fine right up until I hit stop after the national anthem, and then it goes, boop, connection lost.
Oh.
I had to start the race in silence.
Nice. I bet that was awkward feeling.
It kind of was. I got everybody hyped up, and then I just dismissed the row. And after that, all the bikes were running. You couldn't hear anything anyways, but it was kind of...
That first one was awkward.
It was a bit of a downer.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think I've got that issue solved, but yeah, I was not real thrilled about that. But as a concept, it worked well. I just have to iron out a few kinks. But it's kind of funny because there's all this technology involved now. It's a wireless access point and a router, and I can, all this other stuff. Before, it was just like a phone plugged into an FM transmitter, and you had to run somebody back and forth. And I keep adding layers of complexity, but when it works really, really well.
Well, I mean, and Doug and I talked about that. It was fine if it was a phone plugged into an FM transmitter the way they were doing it before, when it was 150 people or 200 people that raced that weekend.
Right. And everything's close by because there's not much going on.
Yeah, you don't have to spread it out. Well, now as the series grows, you have to start spreading this out because there's the parking area is now bigger, and the tracks have to be opened up some to get all these riders to funnel in.
Yeah, and think about how big the start area has to be now, just the start area, when you've got 300 people for one race.
Yeah. So you kind of have to progress and go like this. It's growing pains is all it is. I mean,
yeah. But we got everything up and going, and I was really happy. And I'll off the air bore you with the technical details, but I think I got this fixed for the next race. And
Good
it
deal.
was really nice to be up there though and have full control over everything. Not like I said, let's get ready to race. Like, come, turn on the music,
Yeah.
like yelling at somebody through the microphone.
yeah. That happened a
Because
few times.
we want to keep it professional. We want to give people the best experience possible. And
Well, and on that note, so we did have a guy come up to us, and he said he drove all the way in from Iowa. Now, we're in Indiana,
Yeah.
and it
was an 8-hour drive, easy.
8-hour drive, yeah. And I guess I was talking to Andy, the series owner, today too, and he said he talked to him, but the guy who drove in from Iowa, his dad runs a series out there, kind of similar,
Yeah.
cross-country racing. And the guy said that we, like the Midwest cross-country series, he said we do it better, hands down, all the way across the board. He said if we do it again in the same spot next year, he's coming back for sure, and he's bringing friends. So,
Yeah. Well, it is a testament. I've seen a lot of things this year already that are very encouraging in terms of their, the race owner wants to improve, and I think it's going to be a great year.
Yep.
Speaking of great years, so far, Steve Mueller took third place in the Midwest side-by-side series. This series we run, MWXC, there's no UTVs round one, which is why we're not talking about them in our UTV podcast. But we figured we might throw some of that stuff in. Steve took third place, and you posted a video.
Yes, I did. Well, I posted a video of Steve doing a shakedown on his.
Okay, that's right. It wasn't a race video.
No. Steve, man, he was under the gun to get his machine ready. He had some ECU problems just because he had it reflashed, and when they reflashed it, there was some sort of problem. And they didn't know. They shipped it to him. He put it in, and it was overboosting, and I think his dynamic system wasn't working right, if I remember. But something was up. I mean, it's all controlled by that ECU.
It was pretty down to the wire, time-wise.
He got it back, I believe it was Friday, and the race was Saturday.
Yeah, because he was up basically all night.
Yeah. Yeah, he got it done. So Devin Smith, who also races Midwest cross country with us, he raced in that one. He has an X3. He ended up winning.
Yeah.
Steve said he wasn't really pushing because Midwest side-by-side is not his main series.
Right.
He wanted to use this one kind of as a shakedown. So he went out there. He said he wasn't really pushing, and he thinks he stands a pretty good chance of running them down this year. So
I'll be interested to see. And I don't blame him on a kind of a shakedown race like that. Why risk blowing the machine up? I mean, and it's a brand new machine this year, too. This isn't something he's revamped from last year.
No,
It's all brand new.
In the video that I posted on Facebook, if you guys go check that out, he had 2 miles on the machine at that point. And all he had done, like prior to tearing the whole machine out, is he'd taken it out in his backyard and done some little driving around just to see how it felt and make sure everything was okay before he started tearing it down. Tore the whole machine down. I think he gusseted the frame, new roll cage. I mean, intercom, CVT, temps and blowers, and just everything you can imagine. Just started going through it. New seats, everything. So it was a brand new machine to him. I mean, 2 miles on it isn't enough to get even remotely comfortable in a seat.
So, yeah, no, congratulations to both of you guys, and definitely going to be watching you, Steve, as you progress through the year. And speaking of, you might be doing a little UTVing yourself here pretty quick, aren't you?
Yeah, I get to go ride along with Steve here coming up on March 24th.
Well, now that you're a Razor fanboy, that's perfect.
Oh, yeah, you know me. We'll get to that later.
It might be interesting, though, for you to, since you're still in the throes of trying to decide. Now, granted, this is a nicer machine than you would be buying. This is the full dynamics.
This is.
You're looking more just Razor turbo, nothing super fancy about it.
Correct.
But still, the seats are going to be similar. A lot of it's going to be.
He's got different seats.
Oh, that's right. He pulled them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this won't be useful at all.
No, it won't help me. It won't.
It'll just make you want a new one even worse.
Oh yeah. Yes. I don't think I'll have a new one by then, but just because time wouldn't allow me.
Yeah.
To go get anything at that.
Yeah.
point.
The 24th is a week and a half from now.
Yeah. Actually, by the time this airs, it will be the coming weekend.
Yeah, because we're going to be on our new release schedule of Tuesday.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, it's not Friday, it's Tuesday. So
maybe it's been that kind of week and you've already lost track.
A guy I work with, he has a little saying on like his Skype thing of his, you put little tags there, and he says, "It's been a long week today."
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, but I'm looking forward to go out there and ride with Steve. And
where's that race?
That one is right over by St. Louis. It's actually on the Illinois side of the border.
Okay.
But it's just right there next to St. Louis, a little north of it. So that's about a 3.5 hour drive for me. It's not horrible, but it's not a short trip either.
I'm probably going to sit that one out solely because we've got a bunch of, like April, I'm gone every single weekend, and I can't justify the time right now. And honestly, I'd just be standing there while you at least get to ride.
Yep. I don't blame you. So you guys heard us, if you've listened to the other podcasts, also talk about Michael Plank. He's in the light series, or in the light UTV class.
Runs a Razor 800.
Yep. He got first in his class. So another one of the Midwest cross-country guys.
Dude can flat out drive.
Oh, he can. He magic in those hands.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really, Mike, if you're listening to this, and you're probably not, I'm going to hit you up. I want to ride with you at least one MWXC race. I'll have somebody else start it.
I'll announce.
Yeah, I really want to ride with you on race.
I'm good with that. I wouldn't mind riding with him either. I mean, his machine it was no faster than ours. It was probably slightly slower. He was narrower. He had put different wheels on to narrow it up.
And he said his first season, he was wider like us, and it caused him a lot of the same problems we were having. And once he sucked it in narrower, he said it did wonders for his confidence, and that really was the difference.
Yeah. But man, yeah, he's just quick through the woods. He's just quick.
He's a good driver. I'm really interested because he wanted to go up into heavy this year, get into 1,000, and it just didn't work out for him for a couple of reasons. And he may, I don't know if he's going to run the whole season in the lights or switch up halfway. I mean, he's kind of the guy that wants to win the series, so he'll probably stick with it.
Right.
But I'm curious if come 2019, if he can put something together and get himself into a heavy, I'm curious what he'd do.
Mike,
I know it's a different class, but
I'm not saying he's poor, but he doesn't have the big financial backing like some of the big guys do. So it makes me wonder
if he keeps showing like this, though, I wonder if he'll get some.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't really go out and try to get sponsors. It's just the type he is.
But you know how it is when you finish first a lot, people start backing you, like in terms of fans, and they start, "Hey, I called so and so, and I talked to him about you." And that, I mean, I see that all the time at the races. He keeps doing this well. Other people will find people to sponsor him.
Yeah, but I'm curious how, if he just goes in it with little to no sponsorship, how much more his driving could overtake the higher dollar machines. Yeah. I'm just, it's curiosity and a random thought.
I'd actually, we hadn't talked about this at all, but if, EP starts taking off a little more and making some decent cash, I wouldn't mind sponsoring somebody like that.
I would be fine with that. Yeah. Right now we're not making enough to do anything.
to pay the light bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. I mean,
it's been a crappy winter.
It is. It has.
And really, we haven't been at this very long.
Right. I mean, in the overall scheme of it, just hadn't been very long. So anyway, no, but I'd like to help a racer out who we think stands a good chance and is a good driver and has a good attitude. And Michael Plank, he's a tough competitor out there. I don't think I've ever heard him say a cross word about anybody or to anybody.
No, man. Once the driving's done, he nicest guy you'd ever care to meet.
Yeah. He'll help you do whatever, and he's always, come by the campsite, hang out with us and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, great guy. So, yeah.
I appreciate racers. Racers.
Doug's racist.
So now so now we're talking about motorcycles. No. I appreciate people that are competitive and want to win and do what it takes, but then also keep that in perspective.
Right.
It's hard to do. I mean, I see it get away from people, but that's just that's the kind of person I would want to back.
Yep. No, I fully agree. So, the Mint 400 was this last week.
I wanted to talk about that, yeah.
So I didn't get a chance. I looked yesterday, and I was just so busy today, I didn't get a chance to look. And they have not posted the official full final results. There was news stories out there, but I wasn't gonna announce anything on here of who won or anything like that until the official results came out and I saw them. So
sure.
Let's skip all that. But really, the one thing I wanted to bring up, the Wildcat XX.
So this was really its first kind of big stage trial.
It came out at King of Hammers, but
yeah,
it was kind of forced. And I know one of the dealers for them and their regional rep was pretty upset with how Wildcat released it and kind of just chucked it right into King of Hammers.
Yeah.
And it's like it just didn't show all that well. I mean, it did okay. I'm not saying it was horrible. It just didn't show all that well in that. So
right.
I don't think
and for a
they
new
should have done
release,
that.
you want to make a splash with a new release.
Right. And I just don't think it did.
No.
So then the Mint was this last weekend also. I believe, and I'm trying to do this from memory because I just couldn't find the information I was looking for. I believe there was 3 or 4 Wildcats that were entered.
Yes.
Was what I thought. The one that's the factory-backed one, like the full one, that they had some problems. I'll put it that way. And it kind of, I hope it's not indicative of what will come in the production models, but I kind of wonder because they were saying that they're running full stock shocks, stock everything, basically. I mean, they had to do some safety upgrades. But
right. But they wanted to prove out what a stock machine was like and not say, you don't have a lot of credibility if you field a really modified machine right out of the gate and then tell people to go buy it and it's not what they can get.
Right.
People want to see what they can get.
So there's a video out there, and I didn't post it. I'm just, it wasn't all that exciting. Really what it was the Double X came in for a pit, which is normal, and while they're fueling it and everything else, you hear the driver, and his name escapes me right now, but he says, my shocks are bottoming out. And they don't have the camera right in his face, but you can tell he says it.
Right.
But and I'm sure they didn't want to catch this, but he goes, my shocks are bottoming out constantly. And you hear his, I don't know if it's his crew chief or one of the pit members who's down there at the shocks. He goes, they're set at 3 right now. And I got a dealer friend of mine translated, for those shocks, 3 is full slow compression. They are slowing those shocks as much as they can, and they're still bottoming out.
Now, in theory, they've done tons of suspension tuning with Robbie Gordon. I mean, like, I can't remember the number of hours. Obviously, it's a conglomeration of hours of a team.
Right.
But it was something on the order of 20,000 hours total across all the teams that have worked on it to prove this thing out. So I'm a little curious why they would have had an issue like that, and if really the shocks are not enough to cope with the mass. I mean, we talked about this. It's 600 pounds heavier than a comparable razor.
Right. So I have a couple ideas on this. One, because of the added safety things and like the helmet blower systems that they put on, and they usually carry a spare. I didn't see if that one had it in the bed and stuff like that. But because of all this, it adds more weight.
So this thing could have easily been kissing a ton or more.
Oh, yeah. Probably was, because 2 full-grown men, that's 1,800 and something pounds.
Yeah.
And, bone stock.
And it all adds up. Even, honestly, good 5-point harnesses, they're heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, even that stuff, you start adding up all the
it's
nickel
like,
and
there's an
dimes.
extra 20 pounds a piece or whatever.
Yeah.
That's 40 pounds you've now added. And I think they put bigger tires under it and different wheels, which I'm sure weighed more. So, you're gaining 20 pounds a wheel. Now, that's rotating mass, so it doesn't add to the compression mass that the shocks would feel. But
No, but
I mean, I'm just saying they when I say it was bone stock, they upgraded some things that they needed to. But the suspension was stock, the driveline was stock, all that.
Yeah, it wasn't turbocharged, nothing like that.
So, but it makes me wonder if because of the added weight that they had for just race prep, which was needed, if the shocks didn't cope well with it.
It seems on the surface to kind of point that way. Now, again, this is all just conjecture. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the other thing that makes me raise an eyebrow, even at my own statement, is so what happens when I put a cooler in the bed?
Yeah.
I mean, because those weigh a fair amount. And my shocks may not be whipped out the first ride, but what happens in a year? And shocks aren't cheap.
No, they're not, especially for a machine like that. You go up in CC, you go up in shock price.
Yeah, pretty much. So that had me kind of questioning it. The other thing was just flat out, are the shocks not up to the task?
And you've got a note here. It looks like only one of the 4 that started finished, and it was kind of middle of the pack.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to the others, so I'm not even going to guess or speculate. But the one that's the factory back, the one we were talking about with the shock problem, yeah, they just finished kind of mid-pack. I mean, it was nothing amazing. Now, they're stock driveline.
Correct.
So, I don't know if it is they finished mid-pack in their class or mid-pack overall. I haven't seen the final results. So, but it was just...
It was mediocre.
It was underwhelming.
Yeah, for something that really was billed as having a trophy truck-like suspension and... Okay, it weighed more, but you could see where all the weight was. We posted pictures on our Facebook page and in the previous podcast.
Yep.
Just the difference in how stout the A-arms are. And everything was really beefed up. And so in theory, that translated into you can hit those hills harder, you can hit those jumps harder. It should take the abuse.
Right.
And so far, that doesn't quite seem to be the case.
Well, the suspension seems to be handling it just fine, and the motor is handling it just fine.
Well, not if the shocks are bottoming out.
Right. Well, I mean, like the hard parts, the control arms and the knuckles and all that stuff. It seems to be handling it just fine. So, I mean, does it need shock upgrade?
It just seems odd to me because it's hard to fathom that. They went out to Mint 400 and this thing's bottoming out. What kind of tests were they doing beforehand, or had this driver really had a chance to really be in that machine and put some hard use on it, other than, like you said, a lot of racers kind of out in the back 40 of their own property where it's usually smoother and easier.
Right.
It just seems odd to me that there wasn't something else done or figured out about that beforehand.
Yeah, or a flag raised prior to this.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, I was questioning the same. So, I mean, I'm not saying it is a bad thing. I mean, for all we know, they just got a bad set of shocks. I don't know. I mean, it could happen. And it is pre-production.
Yeah, and we're actually going to have some hands-on time with one of these in the beginning of April.
Yep. So, well, assuming they get delivered on the dealer's schedule, not the dealer that I'm talking to, assuming they get assembled and everything ships on Textron's schedule.
On their side of it.
So
if that all goes well, we're actually going to have seat time in one of these bad boys, and we'll be able to give you some experience of ours. Now, it's going to be a ride. It's not going to be a race. But that's still going to give you guys some pretty good feedback of, our impressions and what we're noticing. And if the suspension is soft to the point where it's bottoming out, I mean, we're not going to be racing it, but there'll still be evidence of that.
Yeah. So the dealer that I'm talking to, he asked me to wait to make a purchase on a new one, and I'll do that until I got to ride the new XX. That's fair.
That's fair.
I can do that. Because he said, you're a racer, you know what they should handle like, and you know how they should feel. Said your opinion means something. It's not just like, oh, you're the guy who's out there putting around.
Right.
So we'll see. I'll give it a shot, and you know what? It may be a great machine. It's just an unknown right now for me is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's a first-year production model. That's like a flag to me in general. But
yeah, we've mentioned this before. We both have a standing rule about buying the first year of pretty much anything.
Yeah. So, but that ride's coming up here in 3 weeks, right? 2.
Yeah. So that's
3 weeks.
Yeah, that's the first weekend there in April, and you've got that ride with Steve on the 24th, that race where you're going to be riding shotgun. I've got 2 MWXC races in April.
Yep.
It's taking
busy.
off. Yeah,
it's busy.
It's a good time of the year to be interested in the off-road, though.
And then end of May, we're going out to the White Knuckle event in Brimstone.
Yep, I'm 98% sure. I just need to get clearance. I need to talk to Jenny about one thing tonight, my beautiful wife, but I'm 98% sure I'm going to that with you.
I have already bought my ticket and everything else. I am for sure going. It sounds like it's going to be a hoot.
Oh, yeah, that
the White
should be
Knuckle
great.
event is part of the Nitro Circus. You know, those guys with Travis Pastrana and all his crew. So it's bound to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's bound to be just a riot. So, that'll be exciting. So I'm definitely going. Doug's more than likely going to that in the end of May. So, yeah, just busy. And that's not counting all the other races and everything going on. It's just busy. So
It's go time. We're in daylight savings.
Yep, pretty much.
Basically, I always dread daylight savings because it just means more stuff.
I have more time to work now. So, okay, we need to start wrapping it up.
Yep, I was gonna say we're at that time.
We are at that magical hour where we do trivia with you and another stupid story with me.
Has your wife suggested anything?
She has not. She suggested I don't do certain ones, but we're going to do that one right there at the top of the list.
I was just gonna say we need to do Chad's wife and her lost keys at Walmart.
Do we? Let's do your trivia first.
Okay.
So, let me pull up.
And at the end, I'm gonna give you another shout out to sponsors.
Oh,
Since
crap.
you muffed it last time.
I can't.
You can't rely on me for everything. I gotta train you, so if I die, you can take this over.
I'm the dumb monkey that doesn't learn.
So I'm giving you another shot.
Okay. All right. You ready for your trivia?
Probably not. But let's do it anyways.
Okay. What was the major difference between modern day dodgeball, the sport? It's sport, quote unquote.
It's on ESPN 8, right?
The Ocho.
The Ocho.
Modern day dodgeball and its origin.
I didn't know I had another form before the modern day incarnation.
Okay, take a guess at what you think the difference was.
In the old version, you threw the smallest person on your team at the other team.
Nope. So, dodgeball actually originated as a brutal sport in Africa where tribes would throw large rocks at each other, trying to knock out their opponent. Once the opponent was down, the player tried to keep pelting them with the rocks, and the other tribe's teammate had to defend the fallen player by hurling more rocks at the attacker.
That's not a sport. That's just warfare.
They threw rocks at each other. That's hilarious.
If you can dodge a rock, you can dodge a ball.
Pretty much.
Okay,
The Patches O'Houlihan.
I had not assumed that was going to be the case. Okay.
Such a thing. Okay. Question number 2. At Disneyland, why is the apple a hologram in Snow White's Scary Adventure? They have, you probably haven't seen it, but anyway.
I've never been to Disneyland.
Yeah, I know.
Or World or anything.
Really? You haven't been to either?
Nope.
No, the mouse steals your money every time.
That's why I don't go.
It sucks. I don't like it. But anyway, kids.
So
whatever.
describe the setup.
So there's like a ride or a walkthrough thing that's this Snow White's Scary Adventure. And instead of having not a real apple, but even like a fiberglass apple or anything like that sitting there, they have a hologram of an apple. And
I'm assuming because people try and take it and eat it.
they would steal it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Speaking of, I was at Walmart the other night. I had to buy a new coffee maker. I actually originally went in for just the carafe.
Yeah.
You know how if you can drop them from 6 feet, they'll bounce. If you drop them 2 inches in the sink, they explode.
Right.
I don't know how that happens. So I'm in there to buy a new one, and I quickly realized we have a cheap coffee maker. It's got a timer on it, but it's a cheap one.
Yeah.
It's like $2 more to just get a whole new coffee maker.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they didn't
We
actually
found that racing last year.
Yeah. I didn't have they didn't have the carafe I needed. They had all sorts of different models, but not the one I needed.
Right.
They had them drywall screwed through the plastic top into the coffee makers on display because people would steal them. Like I went to pull one out to check on it. I couldn't pull it out. And I looked, there's drywall screws driven
Through the glass?
through the coffee maker into the plastic top of the carafe.
Oh, okay.
But they'd gone through the coffee maker with them.
Yeah, whatever.
There you go. People
one
steal
way.
anything.
Whatever. There's people are screwy out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3. What disease grounded astronaut Ken Mattingly from Apollo 13?
Had the measles.
Yes, he did.
Well, he didn't. But,
He didn't, but
he did.
He got flagged, like his blood work or whatever was flagged for possibly having the measles.
Nope, he was fine.
He did not end up having the measles.
You know, I'm sure even as much went wrong on Apollo 13, he still desperately wanted to be up there.
Oh, yeah. So, question number 4. How many U.S. states border Mexico?
I don't know. Let's see if we can figure this out. California does.
That's 1. I'll count for you.
Texas.
2.
Arizona does.
3.
Nevada.
4.
I'm going to stop there because I don't think any others do.
You are correct. It is 4.
Yes.
You're doing really good today. See, I was kind of trying to be tricky. I threw that one as question number 4, thinking you might think, nah, you wouldn't put number 4 as the answer on 4. But
I would never assume you think that far ahead.
I was tricky enough to put it there to try and trick you.
You were. Look at me and my geographical knowledge of the Southwest.
Question number 5. What U.S. state has the longest freshwater shoreline? So freshwater.
Freshwater?
Freshwater.
Michigan.
Correct. I figured you knew that because you were from there. So.
Yes.
Yep. Doug's from Michigan. So.
Well, when you add in the UP, it's like a whole other state up there that's touching water. So, yeah.
Okay. Question number 6. Who was both the 22nd and 24th president of the United States?
Oh, I'm going to feel dumb when you tell me, but I don't know.
Grover Cleveland.
There you go. Not one of the ones you hear about in the history books very much. But.
Nope. Sure wasn't. Okay. I'm going to probably butcher how you say this, but bear with me here.
Okay.
Sophobia is the fear of what? I'm going to cover it all. Oh, crap. I'm going to cover it up so Doug can't see it.
Okay.
So he can see the word. Do you see it?
It's flickering. There you go.
Stop it, phone. You see it between the flickers?
Yes, kind of. It's going to be something weird like the fear of wisdom.
The fear of learning.
Learning. There you go.
There you go. You're doing great today. I'm impressed.
Every once in a while, you just find a wheelhouse I'm good in.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that one, but I reasoned it out from the words.
Okay.
Here's another piece of trivia for you. I had to take 4 years of Latin in private school.
Haha, sucker. How much do you use that one?
Right there. Although that was
useful. Useful.
Although that was a Greek word, not Latin. So.
Okay, whatever.
I never use it.
Okay. Who is worshipped in the Temple of Doom discovered by Indiana Jones? Like, who's their god?
Oh, I don't know.
Kali. Kali.
Okay.
You don't remember that?
Nope.
See, I don't know if I would have remembered that just being asked at random, but I was like, yeah.
You know, I really like the movies, but it's one of those movies that you'll always stop and watch if it's on. But like, I've never been a detail freak about it, like with Star Wars for some reason. It's always just kind of, I've probably passively watched it 100 times. But now I know.
Okay, what love-struck Warner Brothers cartoon character often chased a black cat named Penelope?
It was Pepe Le Pew.
Yes,
Skunk.
sir. Very good. Man, you've gotten a lot of these right.
Redemption for all the other weeks I did terrible.
Yeah. Okay, last one. Question number 10. In the movie Rambo First Blood, how many people did John Rambo kill?
Like actually during the movie?
No, when the filming, how many extras and movie hands did he kill? Yes, during the movie.
Well, I didn't phrase that well. I was like trying to think of like because there's some flashback type of stuff.
In the entire film,
okay.
How many people did they show him killing? So like from the opening credits to the closing credits?
None.
Wrong. He killed one.
Oh, he did?
He did.
I thought it was none.
No, he killed one. So you still did amazingly well this week on that.
Because the default answer would be, I don't know, 180, you know?
At least you guessed. Guessing's at least.
If you've watched, let's say you watched all the other Rambo movies first and then went back and watched that, you'd wondered what had happened.
Yeah.
Because it was completely different than the other movies.
Oh, it was. It was way, way different. So. All right. We
All
ready
right.
for a stupid thing with Chad?
I'm ready for Lost Keys. And this one, the reason I wanted to hear it, it's because it's near and dear to my heart.
Have you heard this story?
I have not.
Okay.
But my wife, and I love her, and she has many admirable qualities. One of them is not keeping track of car keys. Every vehicle I've ever owned, I've started out with 2 sets if it was her car and ended up with 1 set.
Yep.
I've always bought spares. And so I'm going to make this story really quick. We had a Mini for a while, and it only came with 1 key. And the story on this Mini was it was a flood, and the electronics were removed from another Mini and put in this Mini. So there'd always been kind of a fight of it ran, everything worked that needed to work, but there was basically, you couldn't reprogram the computer because the VIN didn't match the VIN on the car, and the VIN in the computer, it was the VIN from the other Mini, and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So she lost the one and only key. And I went through all these permutations to try and figure out how to avoid buying like $3,000 worth of factory computers and having all the computer gear in the car redone.
Yep.
And I was going to have it shipped up to this place in Canada that said they could reprogram it. And I had a shop pull it apart and try and fix it. I mean, I ended up spending basically $700 round trip before she found the original key.
Yeah.
And that stopped me from spending like $1,500. So I was still happy, but basically this key got lost and it cost me $700 until she found it again. And all this, I mean, the car was down for
months.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous amount of time. And so lost keys are kind of it's a thing with me.
Well, you can tell your wife this story or she'll hear it on the podcast and she won't feel as bad, I can promise.
Deal.
So the story is about my wife, and she's actually forbidden me from using this or any of her stories, but whatever. So we're going on with the story anyway, folks.
Meanwhile,
enjoy. I may be dead when you hear this. So my wife had gone, this has been many years ago, because my son, who is now 16, was like 2 or something.
Okay.
So many years ago, my wife was shopping at the local Walmart. Well, she wasn't feeling well, so she goes into use the bathroom. And my son, who was 2 at the time, 2-year-olds don't sit there well for very long.
not so much.
A few seconds. So she's trying to keep him occupied while she's in there, and she hands him her keys. Well, she's having, we'll just put it as bathroom issues. So he's playing happily with the keys and whatever. She goes to get up and be done, and at that moment, my son throws the keys, and into the bowl they go with all the fecal matter and whatnots. So my wife has this moment. She kind of described it as, like, okay, what do we do from here? Because she hasn't flushed. So they're there. You can't see them. They're down there. And so her thought is, I'll flush and the keys, and she's typical woman's got 35 keychains and,
They're heavy enough. They'll be there.
Yeah. No. Right on down the pipe. So she flushed her own keys down the toilet at a Walmart. So I get this frantic phone call from my wife. We were pretty newly married at that point. And she says, I'm going to have to bring her spare set of keys. And she's normally good. Like, she never loses keys or anything like that.
Yeah.
That I have to bring her spare set of keys to Walmart so that she can get out of there, so she can leave. So, I do so, whatever. And while she's waiting on me, she goes up and talks to customer service or whoever, the manager, and kind of explains what happened, very obviously embarrassed and everything else about this. And they said, okay, we'll have our maintenance person look into it and we'll let you know. Because she's thinking maybe it's caught in the trap in there or something like that.
Sure.
So she gives them her number or my number, whichever it was. I think it was my number. And they say that they'll call. So a day goes by, and I think either my wife or I got a message on our phone that said her keys were available to be picked up, that I guess like they have a giant grate system or a screen or something
that
to
makes sense.
catch things like, not like this, but like important things if people tried to, whatever, if they get flushed. So,
bombs and whatnot.
Yeah. So, important things like bombs. So my wife is all happy. So she, goes to the Walmart and she goes up to the customer service counter thing and where they said the keys would be. And the person pulls out a brown paper bag. And on said brown paper bag, it says, keys, do not open. You know where these have been.
So, Walmart didn't disinfect them?
No. So my wife was like mortified because when the note says where these have been, everybody in that store knew that story.
Oh, that is awesome.
And she was she was embarrassed about that one for a long time.
Oh, how have I not heard this?
I don't, because often, stories of throwing keys into poop toilets doesn't often come up in conversation.
That is exactly the stuff we talk about on a regular basis. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, good point. I don't know. It slipped my mind. So, yeah.
Well, and on that interesting
bombshell,
the brown note, we better wrap this thing up before it gets any worse. Want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors. I'll do a couple and I'll let you do the rest.
Okay.
So definitely Watch Communications. Thank you so much for hosting the podcast and our website. If you need to get a hold of them, check out, you can find links for all of our sponsors on our website at eminentperformance.com. Also want to say thank you to utv-doors.com since Chad forgot them last time.
I'm sorry.
TGM Off-Road. Rob, you are awesome. Thank you so much for your help with the podcast and everything else. You've been a great ambassador for our lowly brand.
And I guess it's my turn now. Mike over at UTV Engineering, just UTV Engineering. You can check them out on Facebook. That's kind of their main presence right now. They do a lot of clutching work. And the guys up there at Harrison Power Sports in Harrison, Michigan. If you guys are looking for boats or motors or snowmobiles or side-by-sides and stuff like that, they carry all that kind of stuff and good guys to deal with. So,
all right. And you can find us on the web, once again, eminentperformance.com, on Facebook /Eminent Racing, on Instagram @Eminent Racing. And you can find the podcast on YouTube and, of course, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, and wherever else you might want to find it. You'll probably find it as well. Just look for Eminent Waste of Time. And once again, it's going to be a different release date, so you're hearing this on a Tuesday. I hope that didn't totally throw your week off. But regardless of what day this lands on, thanks for riding along with us.
Thanks, guys.
Tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.